episode of the Rawder Kidula Show is brought to you by Polly Bakes. Fresh from the oven.
When we were coming from there, he goes like, my friend was talking to me. There was this lady, they were very close, and she was talking to me and she was telling me, that we spend a lot of time together and that I should be intentional.
Yeah.
And I'm like, your friend is the one who's going to speak up for me. You don't know what you want, those kind of things. But anyway, he asked me to go out with him, and I knew him, so I was like, just because I agreed to be your girlfriend does not mean I'm agreeing to get married. I hope you know that. I don't have such plans. I just want, to enjoy my life. I had a plan. I was going to go finish school, do my PhD, become a power woman, make money, live life, travel, do exploits for Christ.
Yes.
And then when I'm come and I could beat like this, get married, you understand?
Yeah.
I even used to tell people, I just want to have kids just to see how they look. My dad, because I think he thought that Tony wouldn't be able to take care of me. But my mother, because she thought I would just go and make Tony's life miserable and then get divorced and embarrass her. But God knows. And I remember telling my mom, I know what I'm doing. Because we're both firstborns, we're very type A, we're very strong personas. It was difficult. I wasn't sitting ground, he wasn't sitting ground.
Yeah.
So then later, after a year of being married, Tony got very sick. Very, very sick. He started having issues with his back. He's had, I think, 3 or 4 surgeries on his back. 2 of which, I think the first 2 before we got kids. And so now we start dealing with the probability that, they might mess up his back, they might mess up his waterworks. What are we going to do? Are we able to have children? And I remember one day watching him, and we were with my best mate who was in hospital. He stayed in Aga Khan for like 10 months. So we're in hospital, and he stayed like 4 months, and he was home, then went back for a month. It was crazy. He was sick for like a year. So we are newlywed, and my best mate and my mom were there, and they come and said, you guys just try to have kids. When this guy comes out of this hospital bed, do something. Because I think they were thinking anything can happen. If you lose him, at least utakuwa na mtoi. Unajua? So I had that removed, and then that gave me drama. So we had to wait for another almost 2 years before we got the baby. And now we wanted
that is
baby.
what you write in the book, how you waited the 2 years after. Hi there and welcome back to Excited. Well, you don't know this, but it's been a while since I recorded. The ones you've been watching were recorded a while back, so I just feel like this is a new ground. But I'm so excited for this conversation that we are just about to have. And thank you so much for your support so far. As we record this, we've just hit 50,000 subscribers. So thank you for the support. Thank you for sharing my videos and even following me on social media at Rawder Kidula Show, especially on TikTok. I'm new there, but it's too much, but I love it still. So thank you. I really appreciate. And before we start, just to appreciate JK Studios. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for recording this show and for the good photos that you take. So if you're looking for a videographer or photographer, please consider JK Studios. Planning for a wedding, a family shoot, you're having an event and you need someone to cover it, please call this number on your screen right now. So the Rodah Kidula Show is about having conversations that touch on our families and our marriages and parenting. And we are all about positive vibes because the world is doing enough of negative vibes, especially when it comes to marriage and family. So today I have an awesome, amazing lady in purple and black. You look good.
Thank you.
Oh, most of us know your husband.
Yes.
Your husband's face. I met him when I was in Daystar, I think 2009. We used to have these conferences.
Yeah.
And when it's Reverend Tony KIAMA coming, people would cancel everything. Oh, it was, those powerful crusades and not crusade conferences in the campus, and it was so. That's the first time I met your husband, and you'll be shocked that I met you this year, right?
Yeah.
After knowing
After knowing him
after
for
knowing
forever.
him and seeing him online and all that, he's such an authentic preacher, and he doesn't mince his words.
Yeah.
You know, some of us, when it comes to things like what do we LGBTQ, we are treading so carefully. You know, we don't want to hurt that community. We don't want to say things that will make people judge us. But him, he just says
He calls it as it is.
as it is.
He does.
And
He's an awesome person.
he is. So it's such a joy to get to know the woman behind this awesome person. And I really believe the statement that says, okay, I've twisted it a bit to say behind some very powerful men, some an equally powerful woman, especially man of God.
Wow.
I didn't know that before I was involved in ministry. I just used to think, men of God. But ministry, you need a partner who really supports you and understands you. Marriage on its own is work. Sasa ongeza ministry. Ministry alone is also work. Parenting is work. So, Carol, Mrs. Carole KIAMA, you are Pastor Carol as well.
Yes, I am.
Thank you so much for honoring my invite. Thank you for being on this platform. I have been reading your book and feeling so affirmed as a stay-at-home mom. I'm feeling so encouraged. So thank you for all that you do.
You're welcome.
Before I do an injustice, let us know more about who you are and what you do.
Okay, wow.
Yes.
It's never easy to introduce
It's
yourself.
never easy.
Particularly when you're an African, you feel like you're bragging, yeah?
Please brag.
I know I can't.
Please go ahead and brag.
But my name is Carol, like you said. I'm born
Yeah.
again. I love the Lord Jesus. I gave my life to Christ when I was 13 years old. I'm married to Tony KIAMA for the last 25 years. It's been an amazing journey. He's my red and die.
25.
25. I'm an ordained minister with the Kenya Assemblies of God. I'm currently a student of the Word, of course, but a literal student, so I'm back to school. I'm doing my PhD in organizational development.
Wow.
And I think it's important because sometimes you find yourself in ministry and you really you forget that as much as it's a body, a living organism, it is still an organization, and we need to respect that. So I'm trying to help in the church to do that. And I'm a mother of 3 amazing boys.
Yay.
TJ is 22, Toria is 19, turning 20, and the baby is 10.
Oh.
And they're no girls yet.
Yet. I love yet.
I know my kids will bring boys and they'll be my daughters. So I'm really glad. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you too.
To just be here.
Whom did I meet? One of your sons?
Yes. Must be TJ. The eldest, yeah.
Oh, yeah. In church. The day you found me in your church.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's a little bit about myself. I also stayed home. I took a break. I started off my career journey has just been like all over the place.
Yeah.
But I took time out to take care of the kids. So I stayed 10 years at home with TJ that time, and with TJ and Toria that time. TJ was about a year. It was that season when people were killing, house girls were killing children, or they were infectious. I mean, there were all these horrifying stories. And so I felt convicted that I needed to stay home and be the one that influences my children. You know, I remember someone asking, that we take all this time to go to school and to better ourselves, and then we leave our kids, and then we wonder why they don't, have our values. And for me, it was really, really important that I would be able to help them internalize their faith and see how they can make that merge between whether it's learning or it's living, and to have a biblical worldview. And so I stayed home for 10 years, and then I was like, I'm done. And actually I came back to work here at Park. And then I found myself pregnant.
No, wait, you are too fast. I even want to know briefly how you met your husband.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back.
Yes.
I was a student at Daystar, so I'm also an alumnus of Daystar like yourself. And kissing frogs. And And then I think I just reached, I never thought I'd get married early. I always thought I would eventually get married, like maybe go in my late 30s, going to my 40s, just because I didn't want to be 60 and 70 and by myself. So I felt that there was this whole new life ahead of me, and I wanted this to be this powerful, amorosa woman who, you know. And so it wasn't in my plans to get married. Shock on me, I graduated in 97 and 98 I was married. Can you believe that?
Ooh.
Can you believe that? But anyway, so I met him. We were in the same ministry at ICC. We were in the youth group together, and we had different sets of friends. He got saved. I remember this guy coming up to me and saying, "Oh, I gave my life to Christ." And I was like, "Okay, that's very interesting. And who the hell are you?" You know, this is yeah. Okay, and that is important to me because and that was him. And so they were trying to bring up this youth ministry, and we found ourselves volunteering to do that. But weren't really, I mean, he was dating somebody else, and like I said, I was kissing frogs. So, but then he started a cell group, and they needed a place to meet. So he asked me if they can meet at my house. So I told him to go and talk to my dad, who's not born again. And my dad was like, okay. And I was shocked, because, you know, it was my way of putting him off nicely. So we started the cell group, and like they said, the rest is history. He broke up with his girlfriend. I got tired.
Because of you?
No. Actually, we planned to get married. She left him. And I really honor her for that. I thank her, because if she didn't leave him, I wouldn't be here. So
the blessed breakups.
Nikaangukia. It just was, I don't know, it wasn't, I think it wasn't meant to be. But he had made, you know how you make, the Bible talks about the rash promises of a fool.
Yes.
So he had said that once he's born again, because he would get a chance to tell his story, but he had lived life, and he had lived life in the fast lane. So he promised God that if he falls in love with somebody and tells them he loves them, he will marry them, because he has to be serious. And so he had done this. He'd met this girl, and he told her he loved her. And so he later on told me he felt stuck. He could not go back on his promise.
Yeah.
But then God is gracious. So it didn't work out. She met somebody else, and she's happy. And so, yeah, there he was. And he was a cell group leader. And I was his assistant.
Ooh.
So we just used to meet and talk and laugh. He was very serious with life. I think when you have lived your life and now you find Jesus, you're very passionate.
Yes.
But I think for me, because I'd gotten saved when I was pretty young, I was 13, I was still saved, yes, but wanting to experience a little bit of life.
Yeah.
And so I used to find him very intense. And so when his dad died, his dad was sick, so when his dad died, we just came close. And the next thing I knew, I remember we were walking with him, we'd gone to see a friend. And then when we were coming from there, he goes like, you know, my friend was talking to me, there was this lady, they were very close, and she's like, she was talking to me, and she was telling me, you know, that we spend a lot of time together and that I should be intentional.
Yeah.
And I'm like, your friend is the one who's going to speak up for me. You know, you don't know what you want, those kind of things. But anyway, he asked me to go out with him, and I knew him, so I was like, you know, just because I agreed to be your girlfriend does not mean I'm agreeing to get married. I hope you know that. I don't have such plans. I just want, you know, to enjoy my life. And it was like, I know what I want. So I said, okay, but me, I've just agreed to be your girlfriend. I've not agreed to be your wife. And well, I guess he was right. I guess he knew what he wanted.
He knew. 25 years later.
25 years later, we're here.
How was your first year of marriage? Were you prepared?
I think one of the reasons why I was worried, I got married I turned 24, and a week later I got married. Remember, I wanted to get married at 30. So first and foremost, even the journey, my parents were not happy.
Oh.
They didn't think that I was serious enough to be anybody's wife, and they were probably right. I had dated, I'm not going to lie, but I had not shown indications of somebody. I was very, I think, self-absorbed. It was all about me. It was about what I was getting from these relationships, and I honestly don't think I liked them, I loved them, I guess, but I wasn't sold out. I was like, I'm just living life. This is, you know, I mean, yeah, whatever. I mean, yeah. So, I think I'd only dated two people seriously before, and it wasn't even seriously. I'm thinking of getting married. And I had a plan. I was going to go finish school, do my PhD, become a power woman, make money, live life, travel, do exploits for Christ.
Yes.
And then huku when I'm kama naenda kubit like this, get married, alafu tuzeeke. You understand?
Yeah.
I even used to tell people, I just want to have kids just to see how they look. I didn't think. What you would typically call a wife material, right? So my parents were really worried about that. And they knew that he came from a broken background, a broken home, and was by himself. And they were like, they thought I was feeling sorry for him.
Oh.
But God had spoken to me. And I knew, I treated him, and then my dad knew me very well. And he saw the way I was treating this young man, and he knew they're here. He told my mom, this is the one for you to worry about. Those other ones were just wasting time. This guy, I think, is here to stay. And they felt like maybe I was, I don't know how to put this delicately, like maybe marrying beneath myself. I know that sounds so bad. But that's what they felt. They thought, we took you to school, we've struggled.
Yeah.
This guy, he had lived the life, he was like bad boy. And now he's going to be a preacher. So my dad was like, what? He'll be preaching in the buses. And then how will you survive? Is this the life you're choosing for yourself?
Yeah.
You're going to like take all your money. I'm looking at him and wondering what money. But anyway, so it was hard. They weren't excited. My dad, because I think he thought that Tony wouldn't be able to take care of me. But my mother, because she thought I would just go and make Tony's life miserable and then get divorced and embarrass her. But God knows. And I remember telling my mom, I know what I'm doing. And I love this person. And I think this is God's will for me. It may be different. It's a deviation from the plan.
Yeah.
But he is what God has in store for me. And everything that I want to be, God will be able to do that for me through him. And God has. Going to school was very important for me. And Tony has really supported that. So, So the first year was exciting. It was different. I lived with my mother. I remember the first time I did shopping, I was woken up by my mom.
You lived with your mother and your husband?
No, I lived with my mother before I got married.
Before you got married.
So she did everything. I was working, but she was always to wake me up so that I don't get late to go to work.
Oh, yeah.
Pay for me bus fare, and I was just spoiled. So now I get married, and it's on me. I remember after the honeymoon, I got late to work the first day, and my boss was busy making fun of me. But it was my issue. That was hard. I had to figure out, to budget and to run a home. And me, I'd been a skiver. My sister got a baby when we were home. And I think I barely held her because everyone was fighting for the baby. So I'm like, sawa, washeni mtoto, shikeni mtoto, So it was an adjustment. But I think I was ready and I was so excited. So it was nice.
You were nice.
It was nice. I must say though that because we're both firstborns, we're very type A, we're very strong personas. It was difficult. I wasn't sitting ground, he wasn't sitting ground. And I was used to being spoiled. In these other two relationships, I used to get away with murder. So I remember the first time we were having an argument and I was crying. And he's like, okay, when you finish crying, I want you to know that it's still a no. I was like, in fact, I stopped because there were those crocodile tears. Those tears to get your way. He was like, are you done? It's still no.
Ooh.
I was like, you're kidding me, right?
You're newly married.
Yes. Like, you're kidding me. You're Okonko. Let's call him Okonko. But I think we made the decision to be honest and to be friends.
Yeah.
So we could be able to put aside this thing we were trying to develop, this wife-husband manenos, and say, as my friend, you've really pissed me off as my husband. So, okay, you step aside. What are we going to do about this? It's about us and how do we deal with this issue that is presenting itself. So I think, and then we went for a really good prima class. And Pastor Bishop Kitoto was our teacher and was really, he opened up his life, he really set us up to succeed. So if you're getting married, please go for prima.
Please.
At church, it works.
Please, it's important. And I've heard people saying they're going even as a couple before they even set a date.
Yes.
for the wedding.
It's
Just
better.
go. It's better, right? Because when you start planning for the wedding, pia, hautaski.
We did Prima before we planned for the wedding.
Oh.
We did Prima, and then so that we can decide. I think we engaged our heads. Marrying Tony for me was not just an emotional decision. I sat down and I had a list of what I wanted that I'd been developing from the time I got saved. And I just went back and looked, and he was ticking the boxes. And whatever I had issues with, we talk. I tell people, I find people dating and they waste a lot of time, going for holidays. I'm like, what are you going for? First and foremost, you're saved, eh? Unaenda holidays, when is the milizanyu zikoaje?
You just go to Mombasa, the two of you.
Doing hanky-panky and making sure something doesn't get into something.
Yeah.
But everything else is done. For us, dating was serious business. We had a mentor couple. We used to go to their house and they would give us things to talk about. So we'd talk about in-laws. Okay, let's talk about your in-laws. Are there any... I remember one of the conversations, like for me, I was like, do you have dwarfs? Do you have people, are there special needs people? He wanted to know, in your place, do people, do they go crazy? Do this?
Really?
Those were the things. So ahead of time. Some of these things are predispositions.
Even Jemo is shocked.
Yeah, imagine, and it's a date.
I am 5 years in marriage and we've never... I feel like if someone asks me that, wananitusi.
Us were like, you know what, we are going to merge.
Yeah.
Families are merging, let's know. Are you going to go crazy 30 years down the road? Is that what are your fears? Do you have any illnesses that I need to know about?
That's important.
And we had to talk about that. And, like I said, he'd lived before. We all had our past. So we laid on the table and said, can you deal with it? And sometimes we'd be like, you know what, I need to go home and think about this. Or he'd be like, okay, I didn't see that one coming. So we had some very intense, in those 3, we did it for I think 2 years or so, but it wasn't time to go eat my sausage. We were sitting down and like, okay, we were given 10 topics and we exhausted them. We talked about money. Do you have debt? Do you support family members?
Yes.
Are there people you're paying school fees? Because this is going to affect me. I need to know, and he needs to know as well. I'm the firstborn, he's the firstborn. I'm so, like he's telling me, you're so obsessed about your sister and brother.
Yeah.
So what is their place in this relationship? How are we going to deal? Will we be having how are we going to run our home when we want to help in-laws and stuff like that? What's the plan?
Yes.
Because you see, the thing is, if you don't plan ahead of time, inakuja inakufikia and then upendi watu wetu But now as guys have a manual, we're like, ebu refer on a certain day we said and so and Anna.
Is there room to change our minds?
Of course there's room. But at the beginning, I'm a very structured person and I felt that helped. It helped, and they were called the workers, Nicodemus and Anna.
Yeah.
They really worked with us. And she'd be in the kitchen cooking, and he'd be there marking grades. He was a lecturer at that time. And we'd be sitting here talking, and they're like, okay, so what have you guys decided? Or we'd ask questions, so how do we navigate?
Yeah.
So when I hear people saying we have a mentor couple, I'm like, I hope that couple knows what they're doing.
They're
because
doing.
These guys were in our business. We dated.
And you allowed them
house
to be in your business.
Because Tony used to live alone. We didn't want to get ourselves into trouble. So we'd go have our dates in their house. And we're just sitting there talking. And they're hoovering. And I mean hoovering. As in, they're not leaving us until they've gone to another room. Isabella's. Wameka tu hapo. Do your thing.
Wow.
Yeah. And that helped us a lot.
Young people really need to hear this, We really try to have it's my relationship, it's my boyfriend. There's a part that I'll give to my mentor couple, but the real issues, the realest issues we hide. So that is really important.
And you see, when you hide, it comes out to bite you. It does.
True. Yeah. Then you get married and you have to wait for babies. You wanted babies immediately? No, to be honest, we didn't. So we felt we were still young. We wanted to know each other. Remember, I think we're very intense. So we had this relationship where we were setting the foundation of the house and we tumechora nyumba and everything is fine. And now we're thinking, okay, we didn't enjoy, so let's enjoy a bit. Let's go out. Let's do. So I went to the no plant, which was not a good idea because it came back to bite us. So then later, after a year of being married, Tony got very sick. Very, very sick. He started having issues with his back.
He's had, I think, 3 or 4 surgeries on his back, 2 of which, I think the first 2 before we got kids. And so now we start dealing with the probability that, they might mess up his back, they might mess up his waterworks. What are we going to do? Are we able to have children? And I remember one day watching him, and we were with my best mate who was in hospital. He stayed in Aga Khan for like 10 months. So we're in hospital, and no, actually he stayed like 4 months, and he was home, then went back for a month. It was crazy. He was sick for like a year. So we are newlywed, and my best mate and my mom were there, and they come and said, you know what, you guys just try to have kids. When this guy comes out of this hospital bed, do something. Because I think they were thinking anything can happen. If you lose him, at least utakuwa na mtui. Unajua? So I had that removed, and then that gave me drama. So we had to wait for another like almost 2 years before we got the baby. And now we wanted
that is
baby.
what you write in the book. How you waited the 2 years after he got better
the
now.
Baby. Not the process of trying to get better. We were also trying to get a baby. So,
and when you are really trying,
nothing is happening. Oh my God! People tell you things like relax. I'm like, relax.
How?
What? Exactly. What do you mean relax? Do I just like I talk to my body? Okay, rest. What are you talking about?
And we were taught very well in biology, it's the egg and the sperm. So where does relaxation
come in?
They're just supposed to meet.
And there's nothing there about relaxing. So it took a while, but I'm so grateful to God, because I think if I didn't work, we don't value what we are freely given. And I know children are freely given, but I think that feeling like I strived and worked for it made me realize that it's not automatic to be a parent, and that being a parent is a gift.
Yes.
It's a gift. And so by the time this baby was coming, I would do anything, because I understood the value of this gift that the Lord had given me.
Maybe to someone who's waiting, we have people who've waited 10 years, waited 8 years, waited 20 years. So sometimes when you've waited 1 year or 2, the society, the society treats you like, others have waited. So maybe there's someone who is in that process, even it's months, and they're like, nothing is happening. And they can't tell anyone because you'll be dismissed, because we know people who have waited.
Whether you're waiting a year or 10 years. And of course, it's much harder when it's 10 years. I have friends who are still in waiting. It's going to be 30 years. I think at the back of your mind, it's the fear of, could this be God's plan for me? Is having children part of my journey? Because then you begin to realize, and particularly when you're an overachiever or a type A, which I am, you've planned your life and you have this plan, and God laughs. Like, I think for me, my plans, God has laughed all through. Nothing has gone how I thought it would when I was busy writing, and I'm a writer, right? So recognizing that there's nothing you can do. It's God's gift. He chooses because he knows his plans for you. And so I would say it's not easy, but just know God has a plan. God has a plan. And getting married, having a child is part of the journey. It's not, just because you don't get married or you have children doesn't mean that you've missed out on your journey, because each one of us has a map, the course that they have been charted out for. And so if yours is parenting is part of it, then embrace it. If it's not, then embrace whatever part of the journey that the Lord has for you. And sometimes it saddens me, because I see people who have waited for children, get children, and dismiss them. They don't want to make time for them, and you're like, you have been given such a privilege. Or complaining, and let me just engage on my pet peeve, or doing my family planning. I'm telling you, after no plan, to date, I was like, done. God, you know how many children you want to give me, even if they're 50. Children are a blessing from God. They're not a stumbling block. So I remember when I was being ordained, being asked, Ati, you have how many children do you have? That time I had 2. I said 2. And that's enough. You're not having. I said, what are you talking about? It's not enough. I want more. They said, no, but you're not taking care. I said, but the God is the owner of the universe.
Yes.
What are you talking about? I'm like, Muslim women are getting 12 children.
Yes.
I said, I want to have 15 if I could have. But sometimes I tell God, you only gave me 3. I wanted many. I wanted many children. Because children are a gift. It's such an awesome opportunity. Imagine to prepare somebody to meet God.
Ooh.
I think
That's how you define it.
That's how I define parenting. That
Wow.
God has given me a chance to impact this person's journey, to write the first pages of his life
Oh, yeah.
or her life, and to prepare them to be functional and to know God. I mean, what more important thing can I do
Wow.
with my life?
So 2 boys came.
2 boys came. So TJ
You were
came.
still working when TJ came.
When TJ came, when I was pregnant, I was working. Then when he got to about a year, I remember I was with him in hospital because he got sick, and I purposed that I would be the one who's present. We weren't making money, so it wasn't about. I was in a dead-end job. Tony was just starting off in ministry. We weren't wealthy by any stretch of imagination, but when you're in love, you don't even notice that you're struggling. You just think you're cool. You're cool too.
Yeah.
So it wasn't an easy financial decision to make.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I remember a friend of mine, his wife was making a lot of money and she chose to walk away, and he said, it must have been easier for you because you're making peanuts. You know how people are so
Really?
sensitive. Oh, yes.
Even
But it
volunteers, it's
peanuts.
hard.
It wasn't peanuts for me.
Yeah.
But I sat there and I looked at this child and I felt God spoke to me. And I want to talk to you. Maybe you're a parent and you're working and you're feeling guilty, and we'll talk a little bit about that later.
Yeah.
Because that also forms part of my story. You're not a bad parent. You're not a bad parent. I think God must speak to you. And this is a deviation. When I was a stay-home mom, that was the message. I wanted every woman to
be
quit
stay-home.
and stay home and raise their kids.
I know.
But then,
And there's a way you look at those who are going to work in the
and you're like,
morning.
you're such a bad mommy.
I've been that woman.
Exactly. But I'm so glad that all I know is not all there is to know. All
You just
know is
made
not
me
all there
look
is
at
to
myself.
know.
I need to be more sensitive. There's one I met, and my son says he's 2, just turned 2, but he can say 1 to 10. So the son is also 2. And he was like, she was telling me, why can't my son count 1 to 10 like yours? And I said, because I stay with him and I teach
I teach him, yeah.
I think that was really
okay.
bad.
Be kind to yourself, because I was like that. I was that woman. But then God made me realize that not everybody gets a privilege to
It's actually
the
a
opportunity
privilege.
to stay home, and doesn't make them a bad parent. What happens if your spouse is dead? Or is unavailable, or is just irresponsible, or you have debt. Sometimes going to work is actually sacrificing, because I can tell you the guilt of being a working mother.
Yeah, it's something else. I was a working mother to my daughter.
Exactly.
Oh.
You feel guilty. You feel like you want to buy your kids, give them stuff. And you are doing this because it's the best you know, and it's what the Lord has given you in that season.
Yeah.
So I had the privilege of staying home with them. It was not easy, and it was not appreciated, because the same way we make a working mother feel guilty, working mothers also can make you feel like you're lazy,
eating your husband's money,
and you have no ambition, and the world
you threw away your dreams.
Like you're stupid.
You're stupid.
Yeah. Like people will nobody would ask me what's about current news, because they assumed I don't know.
The economy.
Nobody
what
would
do you know?
give me opportunity, because I just stay home. In fact, like, say, you just stay home. I said, no, I don't stay home. I raise my kids. Those are 2 different things. Staying home means I'm on Netflix, twiddling thumbs, but I'm raising my children. And I'd have people ask me, Papa, do you need a house girl? You're just at home. I said, because I'm not the house girl.
Ooh la la! You've given me a nice one. I should be carrying my notebook.
I did not stop working to clean the house. Because if you're a stay-at-home mom and all you're doing is cleaning, you're not impacting in this child, you're not talking to your child, you're not teaching your child anything, then just get something else to do. You're really not mentoring your child. But I stayed home to mentor my boys. And so I was very intentional. My sister is a teacher and she was a stay-at-home mom at that time. So she drew up a curriculum for us. Yes.
Wow.
And she would talk to us about about the milestones and what they can understand. And so we're very, very intentional. And let me tell you, I see it pay out in the lives of my kids. If you meet my boys today,
I met one.
They think different. They talk different. They're very confident. They know what they want. because I took time to help them nurture that. Yeah.
How was that? I think I have a million questions, but let me start with this one. How was that thought process of now leaving your career or pausing it for your children? Was it just easy? Now I'm done.
To be honest, I think it was a little bit easy for me because, like I said, I felt like I was in a dead-end job.
Okay.
I just felt like it was a colossal waste of my time and life to be going to this office to do this mundane task that could be done by anybody else.
Oh.
So that helped.
Yes.
Perhaps if I was where I am today, it would be different. I don't know. But, you know, God ordained it like that.
Yes.
So I'm going to be honest about that. I didn't feel, I only missed the money. But I didn't feel like I was sacrificing.
We'll talk about the money.
Very important societal changing thing that I was doing now. I was just pushing papers. So that was easy. But when I got home, I recognized just how much of my identity was tied to going to a job. And there was a tendency to want to look frump. So one of the decisions I made is I'm not going to look frumpy. Just because I'm home doesn't mean I'm going to let go of my hair or my nails. If anything, I think I looked better when I was at home because I had more time for grooming. So I made that decision. I said, ata kama life itanisukuma wapi.
Yes.
You know, I realized now I may not buy 17. Those days we didn't never used to have gel polish. So 17 was the it.
Yeah.
But there's still kina Luron, kina Cutex.
Yes.
That is 20, 30 bob. But I have a responsibility. I may not afford to go to Queen's, that was a salon then, but I could learn how to do this at home and do it for myself.
Yeah.
So I made that decision. I'm not going to be frumpy. I said, I'm not going to let my house go. I'm not going to let my husband be embarrassed to bring his friends home. And I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to give my children that extra that has made me stay home. I said, the girl is cleaning. I'll cook. I'll make the meals, and I like to make the meals. But what is this extra? What am I staying home for? I needed to be clear about that. What is it that I want to do? And one of the big things for me was to integrate learning and faith. So I said, I'm going to be intentional about what they watch, what they do, their play, that I'm going to make sure that it's adding value, it's speaking something. So I went crazy about all these books and all these tapes and all that. And we would spend a lot of time watching Kina Donaldman, Kina NIV Kids Club, trying to internalize the word of God. So I spent a lot of my time doing that.
Wow, that is being intentional.
I was very intentional.
I told you earlier that I belong to a fellowship of stay-home moms, and I think it's one of the best things that happened to me, because I had that question of when you meet people you used to work with, or people who knew you because of your profession, asking, what do you do? Now, describing and defining who you are, introducing yourself. How was that for you? How do you introduce yourself?
I was also in a club. We used to call ourselves the Stay-at-Home Moms Club, SAMS. And we made business cards. And then, you know how you write their producer, pastor, we wrote their mother.
Ooh,
so when we go to
I'm
a place
going to make
and people
one.
are giving cards.
Jemo writes these notes for me. I need to make a card.
I'd give out and say, oh, here's someone be like, here's my card. I'm like, okay. I remember I went for a event at State House. That time I was doing, had I done the book? I think we were trying to do an organization called the Neza Africa. Now, I was a stay-at-home mom, but I was also writing for the newspaper. So what I would do, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So anyway, so I had been invited for this event, and I see the director for the bank where I used to work before. And everyone were there. First and foremost, I felt so happy. I'm here. You know how you're like, what? Somebody remembered to invite me for this event.
Yes.
Kuna Mungu. So we are there, and everyone now has to drop their cards. Somebody dropped. And everyone said, so what do you say? I am a mother.
With that confidence.
And they're looking at me like, serious face, at least nilipa. I'm like, I'm a mother. I take care of my kids. That's what I do primarily. But these are the other things that do. And I feel to date, my first definition is a Christian, and then a wife and mother. And then there are all these other things that I do,
come.
you know, when I have time. And that was a shift for me. Now, to take you back, when we first got married, when Tony was sick, the very first time, I was called from the office. They've rushed him to hospital. He has bleeding ulcers, so he's vomiting blood. And I can't leave. Because at that time, I was at the bank and I was a teller. And so, I have a queue. It's M month. And my boss is like, you're crazy. How are you living? just push. And I was pushing, and they waited for me in the hospital for 3 hours. And I remember my workmate, because I was torn between my responsibility to my work and my responsibility as a wife. And that day, I knew I had sacrificed my family for my job.
Yes.
And so I stayed. And my colleague, is called Muge, came and asked me, "Are you crazy? What are you doing here? Close your counter.
Yeah.
I'm taking you to see your husband." So we went, and my poor husband was seated, slumped on a wheelchair, in pain. And I looked at him, and they admitted him. And so I would rush, be with him, and then make sure he's taking a shower, because you don't want to be cleaned by the staff people. So I'd run and be in hospital by 6, and then make sure I'm back to work, and then go back. And one day I asked myself, what am I doing? So when I got a child, and my child was sick, I was like, I don't care whether they're firing me, I'm going there. I'm not sending the maid. I'm staying in the hospital with him. So I stayed. And then he was going home. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. And that time, because I really wanted to be present even as a working mom, I had a girl who would come and go.
Yeah.
And so we were always changing shifts with her. And I said, I don't think I want to do this. Our costs are not high. We could squeeze ourselves enough. We were living at a Kanjo house, so the rent was ridiculously cheap. And you know, rent is what kills people. So I'm not paying school fees for anybody. We weren't supporting our families. So it was just us. And we just made the decision to, cut down significantly, see where we can, and try and survive on what he was bringing home. And I think that was the best decision I ever made, because it killed the fear. The fear of, will I survive? The fear of, who am I when I'm not working?
Oh, yes.
And the freedom to put my family first. So even then, I made a decision that the next job I take, I will never, ever, ever sacrifice my family for it again. Never.
Wow.
So I entered jobs knowing I could work out anytime. In fact, when I started working for my husband, who's my boss now, he sent the deacons to ask me, are you sure she was? Ask her if she's sure she wants to work, or she's going to quit after a year or so, because that was me. And she has to give us a minimum of 4 years. That's what he said. And I told them, no problem. I mean, I'm serving him.
Yeah.
And it's awesome, because when I'm staying home because his children are sick, I'm still serving him.
Yes.
Yeah. So that has worked out well for me.
Is it a decision you made, or the two of you made?
It's a decision both of us made.
Wow, okay.
And I think it has to be a decision both of you made. I felt it more. I was more passionate about it. We took time to talk about it together. So, and you see, I'd also had some time. When he was sick, I also stopped at the bank. That got finished. So I was able to stay with him when he was sick for a year and take care of him.
Yeah.
And then I just got this job, then found out I was pregnant.
Oh,
Yeah.
the third born.
No, the firstborn. See, I was working, then Tony got sick, I stopped working. So I was looking for a job, I had a year. Then I found a job, then got pregnant with the firstborn.
Okay.
So then got him, nganganda for like a year. So I was like, but then it wasn't even a year. Was it a year? Anyway, I just left.
Then you left.
Then I left. And so I stayed home for 10 years. Now, in the meantime, I was also asking myself, because kids sleep, I have a girl who's washing the house, so what am I going to do with myself? I went back and did my master's. I worked it around. Remember, I think that if you remember nothing from this interview, for you who's watching, or even for you, Rodah,
For me. This one was
just
for
know
me.
that the decision to parent your child is not necessarily about staying in the house. It is about wrapping the rest of your life around your family. So it's about priorities, actually.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, it was about setting my priorities right. That my first priority is to myself as a believer, to honor God with my life.
Yes.
And the most important way I can honor God is by taking care of my husband and my children. Because if you choose to be a wife, be a wife. If you choose to be a parent, be a parent. So that was priority for me.
Yeah.
And then all these other things, because you're gifted in different ways. You're a producer, you do this show, you talk to people, you write books, you do stuff.
Yeah.
So I also have a responsibility to sharpen those gifts that the Lord has given me. But the difference now is that it is no longer at the cost of my family. So when I was looking for jobs, when I was looking for things to do, they would wrap themselves around my family as opposed to wrapping my family around them.
Yes.
And that's the big key difference. Even what I tell other working mothers, because now I'm a working mom. are you sure? You must be sure that your family is not the one paying the price, that your job can pay the price for your family and not vice versa. And so for us, it's never, if Pastor Tony today felt the Lord is calling him, he needs to go to America and we're going, I would just quit and go. It is so clear in my mind. If I got a really great opportunity to work outside and my kids need me here, I won't take it.
And the other way around, if you got an opportunity, would he quit and go?
If he's comfortable and wants to do that, fine.
Fine.
But it
for
will
you,
never be him to make, he's not my wife.
Oh.
I had to make that clear in my head. Tony is not my wife. I'm his wife. He has a wife. He has a helper.
Oh, yeah.
My wife is my housey. You know, she's the one who helps me. So if Tony happens
nowadays the society is telling us anytime we see a happily married woman and to make it worse, stay home and you're happy, everyone just thinks that
treat you like a doormat.
Yeah.
Let me tell
Then
you.
they ask you, would your husband quit for your family? Why have you done?
My husband wakes up every morning and goes to work for my family.
Yeah.
My husband sacrifices himself, what he wants. He's a fashionista. He likes to dress well and everything. I can't even remember the last time he bought himself anything. You know, just the other day, our 25th anniversary, he brought me this phone that had just come out. I mean, I was like, it cost him a pretty penny. He saved for it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, your phone, my brother, is dying. And in this family, you're our brand. You can't be going there too, and
the brand.
Your phone is showing my lines.
The face.
You know, you're the face. But it's all about us. And I know that.
Yeah.
That there is nothing Tony would not sacrifice for me and the boys. I know that.
Wow.
So he married me. He chose me. He provides for me. I choose him.
Yes.
And I would sacrifice in a heartbeat, by the way. I know it is not politically correct. It is not, it is not palatable for many people. But for me, I know I'm the wife and I submit myself with joy. And if he needs to go, I would never ask him, now quit your job to follow. No. But if he feels that is what is best for us and he wants to do it, fine. If he feels right now the best support I could be for him is to get a job I get.
I
because
get.
I chose to be a wife.
Yes.
I'm not here by force. I chose. I stood before God and man and made vows.
Yes.
And I honor those vows. And it might not be pleasant for someone else to be receiving and to hear what I have to say. But I've chosen to be happy.
Yeah.
I don't always choose to be right. I choose to be happy.
Someone also told me that I should not also have my identity with, be identified as Mama Shah, Mama Zai. What's your thought about that? That all we know, you are Mama TJ. Do you have a problem with that?
I think of many things. Being Mama TJ is one of them.
One of them.
Being Tony's wife is one of them. Being a Christian is another. Being a sister, being a mother, being a friend. They all form who I am. Now, when you first get married, you kind of lose that as you're trying to find your space. And that is okay. I mean, what I'm trying to say is enjoy that journey. But the truth is that is not who you are. Because if Tony died today, I wouldn't be Mrs. Anyone, but I'd still exist.
Yeah.
If my kids, Lord forbid, they had an accident, maybe he's traveling with them somewhere and they all died, like Job.
Yeah.
I'm no longer a mother, but I still exist. I don't die. And so I believe that who you really are is a child of God.
Yeah.
Everything else is just a role you get to play. And so if people know me as Mama TJ, that is fine.
That's okay.
But that is not who I am. If people know me as Carol, the writer, or the speaker, or the pastor, that's okay, but that's not who I am. Who I am is a child of God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is who I am. That's my identity. That's what gives me meaning.
Yeah.
Everything else I do, whether it's as a wife or a pastor or a mother or a what, is just a role that the Lord has allowed me graciously to play.
Yeah.
And it keeps morphing.
And I know the ladies, wives who are going to, or mothers who are going to watch this, and they get inspired to quit their jobs without consulting their husbands or agreeing with them. What's the danger of making this decision alone?
The danger is that it has financial repercussions. Let's be honest about that. And then there are times when you feel like, what am I doing? it sounds so nice when you're talking about it, but there'll be those days when you wake up and there's nothing exciting. You're stuck with this 2-year-old or 3-year-old, and they're not intellectually stimulating.
Oh, yeah.
You can only watch. I do not like Mr. Bean. I watched Mr. Bean and Bunny. The other day, I went to someone's house and they had Bunny and Teletubbies. I'm like, I wanted to run away. I'm like, this purple teddy bear, this purple dragon still exists. Because I watched it, I can climb. I'm just sitting there and like right now it's Baby Shark.
Yeah, mine is singing that Baby Shark.
You feel like in your head. Exactly. And you just want someone to talk to you about what is happening in Israel.
Yes.
About,
Yeah.
So
the king. I just learned the king came.
Exactly. You're like, Prince Charles was here. You almost asked, who's Prince Charles? Oh, Prince Charles became king. So it has its moments. It's just like working. I mean, working is not, you're not always excited and doing very important, So you will have those mundane moments. And you will have those times when your spouse needs to keep reminding you that this sacrifice is worth it, because you will not see it immediately. And you see, just because you sacrifice to stay home doesn't mean your kids are going to be Einstein. In fact, in my book, I read a time when I was like, I was going to raise this Einstein and, and Messi rolled into one, and I was going to give them all these opportunities to conquer the world. And my kids have made bad decisions. They have, sometimes, because they're people.
So because you quit your job to parent,
doesn't mean that
they're going to be perfect.
They won't. Or they're going to make perfect decisions. Or they're going to be, this extraordinary men and women. That is not why you choose to parent. You choose to parent because you just want to feel like you give them the best chance to be the best versions of who God intended for them to be.
Yeah.
And that was important for me. I struggled with that. I wanted them to be me and to attain all that I want them to attain.
Yeah.
But I realized that that's not what God had called me for. God had just called me to be present. It's about being present. And I know many women who stay home and they're not mothers.
They're not
just
present.
Stay home. They're not present. They're on the phone. They're with their friends. They're going for chais. They're hanging out with girlfriends.
They are watching things on YouTube.
Yeah. Or they're watching movies and series and all that. And then the baby, mommy,
I just posted something this morning. I was trying to do something on the computer and he kept putting his leg on the comp.
Yes.
So I kept putting it back and, so when you said that, I'm like, I have those moments when, I have to do this and he's coming there, Baby Shark. I'm like, not
and then
now.
Sometimes we also have a responsibility to teach them that they can always get what they want.
Oh, yes.
So one of the things I did now with the free time, because it's going to be free time, first and foremost, I realized 24 hours is a long time. And there's a tendency to want to wake up at 10, to be shabby. No.
Really?
Because you're teaching. Remember, you're teaching. And these little eyes are watching. So you wake up and you take a shower. There's nothing, we're hanging out with pajamas the whole day. That is not where you're home. So we'd wake up and we'd prepare ourselves, we'd be presentable. I didn't want to meet my colleagues up at the mall. Na nimevaa tu sijui shagala bagala. And then
romper. We have grown-up rompers and Crocs.
And they're feeling, my husband is coming home. He's like, okay. He's praying every day for the child to grow.
There's that thing we get to hear as stay-home moms. Your husband is interacting with women there who are looking good. Okay. That one never gets to me, but it still makes sense when you see people, even for me, I see men dressed up, looking good, and then I get home and my husband has that same t-shirt.
Exactly.
Same t-shirt.
So don't be that wife.
Yeah.
I chose not to be that wife. I was like, never ever will he come, and he's worried he has to call first because he might come with a friend and nakasiju yaje. They're like, they come, they're like, habari mama yuko, because they think you're, or whatever. That was not going to happen.
Imagine that happened to me. That happened. Someone was coming to fix something in the house and I went to open and the baby was really young. I was alone and I went to open the door and then he asks me if mwenyewe yako.
So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to your wardrobe and those nguo za nyumbani, you're going to get rid of them. There's nothing like nguo za nyumbani.
They are
even
free.
If you have to wear deras, wear nice ones. Wear dera ya mwenye nyumba. Somebody has to ask mwenye nyumba yuko.
And I was like,
Mwenye nyumba ni
Ni
mimi.
mimi.
Oh, pole mama. So you have to occupy your space. Nobody, I'm not going to sit here and lie and tell you that it's going to be easy. It's a thankless job. Being a parent is a thankless job.
Yes.
So you have to motivate yourself and remember your reasons why. And so one of the things I did is I went back and I did my master's during that time. And it was crazy because I purposed that it was not going to steal from the kids. So I would go like in the morning till lunchtime. And then when I come home, because I had planned it such that their morning hours, they were very, they were sleeping or they were in school. Actually, by that time they were in school and they used to come out of school at 1.
Oh, okay.
So I would go to class, then go and pick them and spend the whole time with them. And then when they sleep, I'd sit up and do my papers. And there are many times when my husband would wake me up from the table to go back to class. It was crazy. And I passed.
Wow.
So it's doable.
Good, it's doable.
But because I knew why I'm doing this, and I knew this was a season. It was just a season.
Yeah.
I mean, now see, I'm working. See, the children have grown.
Yeah.
See, I'm back to school. It was just a season.
But you came here saying you still drop them and pick them daily.
I do. I drop the baby. And the big ones drop themselves or take matatu. But the baby, I mean, I chose to have him later, so baby who's 10.
So wait,
it's not
now
really
when the
baby.
baby came, you also quit?
When the baby came, I was right here at park, working. Now, that one was easier for me because I lived in the compound and worked in the compound.
Okay.
So I breastfed for 6 months. In between class, I was always with him. So I felt I was still present. And the circumstances were such that at that time we were living here. So quitting was not an easy option. The other kids are in school, the schools were expensive. So we needed that extra income.
Yeah.
But then, who's God? After a while, they restructured. And so I was part of the people who faced that. And to be honest, I really wanted to leave. I so badly wanted to leave.
You were...
And my husband was like, you're quitting again, you're kidding me. So I was like, God. When other people are praying, oh God, I was busy there praying, God, please, I have to be in the list.
In the list of people getting fired?
Yes, people being laid off.
Yeah.
So I was laid off. I was happy. Do you know, I was laid off. I was laid off at, and I know some of my former colleagues are watching and they can testify. I was laid off at 12, I think.
Yeah.
By 3, I'd already found another house. I was like,
we are going.
I called my friend, hey, I want to live in such a place. Let's go look for a house. And she had come to see me to give me moral support because she thought it would be so sad.
Yeah.
She was looking at me like, are you insane? I'm like, now I don't have to say I quit. I can actually say I was retrenched.
I was laid off.
And so my husband now can employ me because I wanted to work for the church.
Yeah.
So I did that. We moved. I stayed home a little bit and then I started working for the church full time. And we're living far. We're living in Tigoni at that time.
Yeah.
And work is a parklands. So my baby had not yet started going to school. So we're like, that time it was just about to start. So we moved closer. We moved on this side. We moved nearer the school. He's in Garden Estate, so we moved nearer there. And so now I could drop him, go work, pick him, go home.
Wow.
And we've done that.
It worked for your good.
Pastoral work is different. There are times when I can be there. There are times when you have funerals, we have to travel, stuff. But then again, it wraps itself around the family as opposed to the family wrapping itself around work. So work stopped being the central thing. Family became the central thing, and all these other things were wrapped around that. And I think that is God's design. That if you choose to have family, it needs to be central.
Yes.
And all these other things, because we work for who? We do these things for
the family.
So if it's not for the family, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah? If it's just for identity and stuff, then there's a problem.
There's a problem.
And these children grow. I mean, my sons now, in the next couple of years, they'll be having their own homes. Yeah? And I will still be here, hopefully having a lot of energy with my boyfriend running up and down, taking this country for Jesus.
Amen.
Yeah? The time will come. It's just understanding the seasons you're in and what the Lord would expect you to do in that season. Yeah.
For a stay-home mom who doesn't feel appreciated by the spouse,
what do they do? And that's difficult.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd want to talk, if your wife takes time to take care of your kids, please appreciate her. It costs her. It costs her. It sets you back. It did.
Did you ever feel unappreciated?
Maybe not unappreciated, maybe taken for granted. Taken for granted that I also made some mistakes. Like I made them think like I will be there. mimi ni kama doormat.
Oh.
I have no rights. It's all about us in this kingdom. And you know me, I'm raising men. So the female population in my house is quite low.
Yes.
Since I'm by myself.
Yourself.
So I was, the times when I felt that took me for granted, the times when I felt that maybe people do not appreciate the cost.
Yes.
The cost, that feeling like you're brain dead. And that's why for me, I went back to school. And I would encourage, if you're even if it's a craft. I have a friend who started a business because she's very good with her hands. So when she was raising her children, she started, she does deca, and she's become very well known for it. A friend of mine, I don't know if you've heard of Milele Designs. The
Yes,
owner of
I
Milele
have.
Designs. She's my good friend. And
Wow.
if you need your house done, be done by Milele Designs. She started that. She noticed because she was home, she would match staff, and her business grew from there. And now
Yeah.
she's employed some of her, 2 of her kids work for her. And they're
Wow.
salaried employees. So also look at it as an opportunity to develop the other parts of you that never got a chance for expression. Yeah. And so, and God uses that. Those little things, like I started at that time, when I finished, part of what I needed to do to graduate was to, I think one of my courses, I needed to have some work published. And that was the time The Star was coming out. And so I talked to them and sent an article about being a stay-at-home mom, and they decided to run a column, and they ran that column for 8 years. And it had more impact than I thought it could have. And so I would take these experiences every day, and I would try and look at them from a different eye and write about them, and everything I wrote was true. Actually, the reason why I stopped writing those articles is because my kids grew up, and they said, Mommy, if you write again, we'll say their lies. We don't want you to tell. It's our story to tell. And so now I was like, sorry guys, it's a wrap.
And that's the season you wrote this book.
And those articles, I compiled them into that book.
Into this book.
Into that book.
Wow.
It was a memoir for my kids to remember. Instead of, you know how people have photo albums? For me, I'll give them. And then the baby came, and I said, na mimi sina kitabu. I said, I think yours, nitakuandikia kanini, just photos. We've taken many photos with you. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Rawder Kidula Show, and I thank God for an opportunity to mentor young girls, teen girls, because I was one myself and I have a teen daughter as well. So how are you raising them? How are you mentoring them? This is not just a book, it's a gift of values. Together with my sister Flora Kidula, we just sat down and had conversations surrounding our lives as teen girls, and we came up with 12 topics that are very relevant to today's teen girl. As a parent, as a guardian, as a mentor, you need to gift your daughter this book because it will change her, it will inspire her, and she will make better choices because of our experience, because of our mistakes, and because of the wisdom we share here. And we also approached our brother Sami Kaihuri, who is passionate about high school ministry, to do the same for the teen boy because of public demand. So Sami Kaihuri has great and rich content for your teen son in this book, You Are Now a Man. Great topics, great motivation, great inspiration. So get yourself a copy of these gifts for your teen children or your teen nieces and nephews, and together let us impact this younger generation positively. Oh, this is beautiful. Glimpses into a mother's heart. Before you tell me more about this, I had another question on the guilt. I've come to realize it's not only the mothers who feel the guilt, the fathers too feel the guilt. So how do you handle a situation where now I'm home with the kids and my husband feels like he's missing out on everything, and I'm getting...
He does feel that happens. And then he feels like I go there, get tired, I'm harassed. And then I come and nobody's even bothered with me. We tried to make his homecoming special. We tried to make his homecoming special. So I'd get the kids excited, daddy's coming, and celebrate when he comes home and allow them some time for just them. I'm not into playing, so that was a good place for them to play together. And also for me to distress, because the truth is, there are times when you need to rescued from those kids. I mean, they're all over. You're in the toilet, they're there banging at the door. Mami, umemaliza.
Oh, thank God they're banging. Mind if I lock that door? He screams, open, open.
The thing. So there are times when you're like, so your spouse becomes a buffer. That time when he comes home, he'd be there and he'd be talking with his kids, and I'd take time. I'd do something. I'd take a walk just to run away. And I started teaching my kids, let him scream, by the way, Kidula. That one is Mwambie kapo, he'll
wait for me.
He'll die. So I'd be like, I'm coming.
You're that mother.
I'm that mother. I'm like, say scream. Now, what were we screaming about?
What were you screaming about? I'm here.
There's
I
what
go.
is called
Actually,
private.
it has actually reduced. Nowadays, he even says bye and lets me go in. So
and waits for you to take
we are outside
Mommy,
there.
are you done? Mommy, are you done?
Yeah, that is actually very important, that there is time for privacy. This, I have to go alone, you know. Sometimes we give them too much.
But they'll also grow. He's also little. He's going to grow. And as they grow, they get to understand. But you see, you're also helping him to know that you will be available, that you're available. And he begins to learn that just because I've left the room does not mean I'm never coming back. And keeping your promises. Yeah, with time, they realize, Mom is here. In fact, there are times when I would go and hide. And I still do that sometimes. I hide in one of the rooms. And then I watch people coming. And they're like, where's Mom? Where's Mom? Where's Mom? Where's Shiro? Pastor Tony calls me Shiro. Where's Shiro? And then I'm like, I'm here. They're like, oh, okay. And continue with their business.
Why do they do that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think home is not home if Mom is not there.
There's just something about Mom.
She's not there. In fact, my child was going to school, like, Mommy, where are you going today? Are you going after work? I'm like, no, why? Okay. And he doesn't want anything. Like, who's dropping me to school? So if I don't drop him, the dad will drop him. He's like, I don't want to be dropped. So even those days when sometimes you're caught up and the brothers have to pick him, he's like, where are you?
So for parenting, what is the number one advice you would give a parent, a new parent?
Time. For a child, love is spelled Time. I know that's very cliche, but it's the truth. Children need time.
Not gifts, not toys, not phones.
Toys. And those toys are good, but they'll grow them. Those phones are good, but they'll grow them. Your child needs time. And time is just being present. You might be thinking that you're doing nothing, just seated. And sometimes you're there, you're reading your book, he's there, he's drawing, or he's playing on the phone or something, but you're there. That knowledge that if he remembers something he can ask, you're there, you're present. And that time, the window of influence is so short. A child's IQ develops. 90% of it develops. By the time they're 2, by the time they're 5, they've developed a worldview. You want to be able to be the person who shaped that worldview. Because no matter how present you are after, those first 5 formative years are very, very important. Very, very important. So as much as you can be there. Be present.
Be present.
Be present. I think that is what I tell the parent. God has given you such a precious gift. People cry to have children. They do anything to have children. And you did nothing. God just gave you. Treasure that gift. It's such a short time. I mean, I look at my child. I can't believe he's 22. I remember when we used to take walks and I'd be saying, Daddy, that's a big tree and that's a small tree. What does the small tree do? The small tree obeys a big tree. I mean, those were the little lessons. And now he's a man. One day he's going to be a father. You know, I remember when he turned 18, I really cried. And in fact, my friend asked me, what's with you? I was like, because it hit me, it's actually over.
It's not over.
Over in the sense that he can make decisions. I'm no longer responsible for his decisions. He can go to prison. He can choose to drink. He can choose to live his life. I mean, there's very little control I have. And I was like, I'm so grateful to God that he opened my eyes to the reality of the importance of being present. It's such a short time. You blink and it's over. I know when you're living it, it looks forever. You're thinking, my 2-year-old, that's 20 years.
That's
You'll blink. He goes to school. He goes to school for 8 hours. So the reason why I pick them is to hear, how was your day? We get some time to talk. Because now they're all, you know, you're not raising just one child. You have to make time. I have to make time for TJ. I have to make time for Tori. I have to make time for Dayo. Their personalities are different. There's some children who you'll find it's easier to gel with because they're more like you. There's some you have to really dig to get that information. It's work. And it doesn't stop. Because just the other day, my dad had come to see his baby, who's me. Actually, yesterday. So it doesn't stop.
Yeah, it
But
doesn't stop.
It changes, it morphs. Yeah.
Wow. Why should a woman read this book?
I think a woman should read this book. I wish I'd give them out to every woman.
I know.
But
Thank you
just-
for giving this to me.
You're welcome.
Oh.
I think for me,
feel
I wrote that book to
validated.
validate. That's it.
Yeah.
I wrote that book to validate and to make you know that staying home matters, and to make you know that you're not alone, and to remind you of the things that are important. One of my favorite stories is the one of legacy.
Yeah.
To continually ask myself, what do I want to be remembered for? And how am I passing on the baton? What legacy am I leaving with my kids? Is it just a love for money? Because all these things are going to pass. A friend of mine is seriously sick right now. Actually, I'll go and see them immediately after this. And the reality that their time here may be coming to an end, and this is my age mate, is very real for me. I did an interview with somebody, and immediately soon after they lost their spouse. And so knowing that coming towards that time in life when these things are becoming a reality helps me realize that I must invest my life on the things that truly matter. And the things that truly matter eternal. You know, how I made somebody feel, how was I representative of Christ in their life? The way I lived my life, the way I talked, the way I loved people, the way I impacted them. Did I make them feel like they're important? Did I make them know that they're created in the image of God? Did I introduce God to them? You know, that is the only important legacy that I can leave with my kids. And you know, no matter how much money they make, if they don't feel valued, then that money becomes meaningless. And you know, they're going to be beat by life. They're going to get jobs. They're going to go out there where they're made to feel they're not important, they don't matter, that they have nothing to give. I want home to be safe. And I just want to, maybe as we're coming to the tail end, finish with the parable of the father, the prodigal son. You know, I remind myself that when it hit the fan for this boy, he knew how to go back home. And I asked myself, is my home a place where my kids know that they're safe to come to whatever mistakes they have made, whatever decisions they have made? And I pray that that is the home that I want to create, that they know in the presence of their mother that there is safety, or in the presence of their father. I cannot speak for Tony, but I want them to know that our home is just that they can always come back. Because when the boy had tried everything, the Bible says he remembered. And he was like, even if I go, I may not be accepted as a son, but I will be accepted as a worker. Because my parents are fair employers, number one. They treat their employees well, better than I'm being treated here. Because your children will take it for granted. You were talking about taking it for granted. They will think they're stars and they'll take it for granted. And then watendo kuwanyorosho na ulimwengu. Then
Character
they realize,
development.
Home was safe. Because the dad, and I love that, did not go to look for the son. He did not try to stop him from making the mistakes. He knew whatever he had implanted in this boy, when he came up from this deception, he would remember where home is. And he knew that the dad would be waiting for him. And that's the legacy I want to leave with my kids, that wherever they go, whatever they become, that when it hits the fan, they can always come home.
Home is safe.
Home is safe. Home is open. Home is available for them, for their families, for their kids, for their grandkids, should the Lord keep us. And that they will carry that gift forward.
Is there something like balancing work, parenting?
Because I think in my journey, one of the mistakes I made is not having boundaries. And that's what I was telling you, like, you know, your child coming to the bathroom with you, or, you know, feeling they can enter your room anytime. So I struggled. I thought loving them is making it boundaryless, but I wasn't helping them, because then I was also teaching them to disrespect other people's times. And to disrespect and to become very absorbed. So I had to entitled. So I had to go back and redo that, to realize, hey, love is not just feeling good. Sometimes love is tough. And to teach not just my kids, but even my husband, that, you know, I am also a person. I also matter, and I need to occupy space. Mommy needs time to distress. Mommy needs time to do her quiet time. You know, I had to make time for Christ. You know, and it's hard, but in the busyness of, you know, you're a parent, you're a wife, you're a mother, you're a pastor, you're all these things, but you are still developing your own personal relationship with Jesus Christ. That you have friends that are your friends, that you have time for Tony and I, because even for us, we've struggled. We love this gospel. We want to always be out there telling people about Jesus. And, so we realize that sometimes we think because we work together and we went for this event together that we went out. But we didn't. We were still at work, so making time when it's just the two of us to take a walk and just remember each other. So it's very important to have that balance. But honestly, I think that balance is arrived when you choose to prioritize your time with God. Everything else kind of aligns itself. Yeah. So whether it works for you in the morning or in the evening, just choosing to have that time with God helps you then to have a place for everything else. I've found that the times when I've woken up with the Lord, or I've spent time with God, then everything aligns itself. I don't feel so harassed and rushed because life just gets busier and busier. And the better you are at something, the more responsibilities you're given. Like this show. Managing 50,000 people is not a joke, which we have to talk about. How did you make this subscription go to 50,000?
Interviewing people like you. At first, I used to think positive stories. You'll not even get to 1,000. But God, I think God you just let him be God and you continue doing your work. You just continue being consistent, doing your work, knowing your goal. Because I've had so many people who want to be interviewed and you look at the story and you're like, not this platform. But I know if I interviewed them, those stories of, but this is not a platform for you to come and bash your spouse or say why you left each other or, we are pro-family and pro-marriage. So I think it's just, I don't have answers because I tried all those things that people say, if you want to grow your channel, do ABCD, nothing worked.
Just love God. Do. I think when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, it draws people.
Yes, it does. I said I would not end without talking about gadgets. Children are home for a very long time. As we do this, they are having these long holidays from October to January 9th or 8th. And some of them are going to spend 90% of this time on movies, on phones.
Well, we must live with the reality that they're not us. That the world has shifted for them. And some of their most meaningful relationships, sad to say, is on that screen. That they have meaningful relationships with people that they've never physically met. And I think that is very difficult for us to comprehend and to understand and to even, to really truly feel what that means for them. And when I was talking to a friend of mine who's a child psychologist, maybe you should have her in one of your shows. And she was telling us, when we rubbish those relationships, when you hear somebody has committed suicide because of a relationship, we assume it wasn't meaningful because it was a physical. But physical is our reality, it's not theirs. And so, two things. One, create bonding opportunities. My children do not like board games, or they never used to like. But I force. I
was waiting
Until
for that
now,
word.
they love it. Sometimes I'm like, let's just watch a family movie. Why don't you go for walks? And let me tell you, they also get bored. It's very boring just sitting there. You get so tired, So go for a drive, go for a walk. I mean, meaning when you're doing full clothes, give the help some time off, or let her be a day scholar or something. Do stuff with them. Let them start cooking. I mean, boredom. Sometimes so that is one. Give them alternatives, but also don't fill every hour with activity. Their boredom does not kill somebody. Some of the greatest innovations were made because people were bored. So in fact, I was watching my kids and saying, I think we need to go up country one of these days. Where like, though these days up country zote zina stima, but where gadgets are not, maybe uko kujafika Netflix.
That's what you won't find.
You can get bored. Then when you get bored, you start looking for creative things to do yourself. And then it rents your creative juices. Then you feel happy. One of the reasons why children are so unhappy is because they don't have, work gives you meaning. Give your children responsibility. They make their beds, they clean their rooms, they do their clothes. I mean, something. And let me tell you, when you start giving them responsibilities, you double your work. Because kufuatana nayo, kwanza you have boys. ulitanga tena, endo tankasai. But with time, if you don't quit, because it's a battle of wills.
Yes.
Anataka uquit, mtanikie. But as you continue pushing that door, then they do it and they realize, wow, they feel good about themselves. It gives them positive vibes. Yeah. So instead of fighting the gadget, said, bring all your phones, we're locking them. Look for a way that will engage them so that, if you have a job, go to the office with your kids. If you're in a place, some people own companies. Waandike huko kama a messenger, ama shops, ama a friend of yours. Teach your kids, if they're teenagers, to volunteer in organization. Kina YMCA, kina who? They can go volunteer. They can volunteer in kids' church. They can do something. Start developing crafts. Think outside. Give them.
If it's not something you ask them, do you ask them, would you like to go volunteer?
Depends. The thing is, the more you sit, the more you like to sit. So sometimes you can volunteer them.
Oh, yeah.
But there'll be an age where you cannot volunteer them. Like not 20. I cannot force you.
You can't.
But I can make it meaningful. I can say, go with me, I'm going to visit someone who's sick in hospital. Go. And then they start enjoying, because our children have missed the art of having conversations. They don't know how to converse.
Yes.
So when they come, allowing them to be in an adult space and giving an opinion, inviting them for your fellowships, hosting and getting them to be part of the hosting. Those are some of the things that I personally try to do to make sure that, and my son doesn't like it. He'd rather be there playing Fortnite or doing one of those things. And I'm like, leo tunaenda. He may not like it till Nuna on our way, but when he comes back, he's happier and energized.
Does your 10-year-old have a phone?
Of course.
I like it.
I gave him, and it's not for everybody. Some people don't. But when it's his phone, I have control. First, I can put YouTube Kids and block the other things. And then he no longer has an excuse to use somebody else's phone. And then I can control his phone. Once my kids went into somebody's phone and they found pornography, and this was a person, I would not have expected that from them. And that is what informed for me the decision. So this is their reality. Even if your child doesn't have a phone, they're using somebody else's.
Yes.
Or they're going to... So what you do is
they're
not
depressed
assume.
because they don't. Some are really depressed because now schools are closed. Everyone is on WhatsApp. Assignments are being sent there.
That's the thing. Or they're in their neighbors or the house girl's phone because you're busy and the house girl doesn't want to be disturbed, and which you have no control over what they'll find. So have those conversations. Sit down and say, the reason why I don't want you to be on TikTok at this time is because of XYZ. This is what they do. And is this right before the eyes of God? And if you started that when they were smaller, like sometimes I'll say my son is watching, then I'm like, bring back that phone, let's go to history. So what is this about? I may not always be there, but God is always with you and is always watching. So how is this helping you? What does this introduce? What does that look like for you? Because the thing is, right now, pornography is everywhere.
It's everywhere.
The LGBTQ agenda is real. So when we sit down with the kids, you cannot continue putting your head in the sand. You must have those difficult discussions and talk about, why are we not watching this cartoon? The other day I was shocked. I think it was a really nice movie, and then we were watching. My son's like, Mommy, watch this. He had watched it before me, which I don't like. So then the time says, but then says, oh, Mommy, you can't watch that. I say, why? Because that girl is gay. What? Is this a cartoon? And it's for general exhibition. And I said, how? Until she gets to like another girl, and I was like, what? And I'm like, and that is wrong because that is not natural, and we talked about it. People may say, oh, I'm not loving, but loving is telling you truth.
Yes.
Lying to you is what is not loving. Telling you that it's okay, God is okay with you, He accepts you the way you are. That is not biblical. The Bible is very clear. About homosexuality, the Bible is, He hates it. That's what He says. And you will go to hell because God has a plan for sexuality. Lay down the Bible, what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. If I am there having a kampango akando akabenten and I die, I'll go to hell. If you're gay and you're in that relationship actively, you are living the lifestyle.
Yes.
No, I do not refuse. You can be attracted to somebody of the same sex. That is true. But what you do with it is what God holds you accountable for.
The same way you can be attracted to someone who's not your spouse.
Exactly.
But you...
Or an animal, whatever, man.
Ooh.
The thing is this. I have a responsibility before God to honor God and to love him first and to love him most. And to obey. I can't just wake up today and say, Johnny, I'm any bo. I want that better looking, whatever. And just, it is sin.
Yeah.
And it's present continuous sin. So long as he's alive. Unless I murder him, then I confess for murder and remarry.
How has discipline been?
Disciplining the kids.
Yeah.
Spell the road, spell the child. As we are people of Kiboko.
Oh.
We did the Mukolwe parenting class.
Oh, yeah.
And that really helped. So what we agreed is we don't punish an infraction that we have not explained. So we would have discussions and say, I'm punishing you this and this is wrong. This is the rule. If you do it again, I will beat you. And if you do it again, you get beaten. So if we had not talked about, if you come to your house and my kids are all over your chairs like little monkeys, and I have never taught them that is bad, I won't punish them for it. But we're going to go home, have a discussion and explain to them why that is bad. And I tell them next time you do that, this is the repercussion. And make sure that I fulfill that repercussion.
You fulfill it.
Of course, there were times when I was a bit lazy and I'd let them get away. But by and large, we would make sure that if you said utatandikwa, rest assured, the way the sun rises and sets, kiboko utakula.
But now a 22-year-old.
No, of course, and then of course they reach a certain age you don't. And then you just pray. And that's why I'm saying the window of influence is small.
Yes.
At the age my son is now, we can only have discussions and talk and tell him I am like a cheerleader in his life. Of course, because you live in my house, I pay bills, there's certain rules. But he chooses to live there. He can choose to move out.
Yes.
So we now have conversations. And then there are things he just won't do because he knows they're not good for him.
Yeah.
Of course, there are decisions he's made that I also don't agree with and are painful and I think they're wrong. But it's his journey. I had to reach that point where I realized I'm not parenting an adult. And parenting an adult is very different.
Yes, very different.
Very, very different. And so I respect his boundaries. Just like he respects mine, we agree there are certain things they're not going to happen because it's my roof.
Yes.
If you want them to do them so badly, you will get your own roof. And then if I go to his roof, I have no jurisdiction there. I just accept.
Wow. But it's a beautiful journey. You are enjoying it.
I am enjoying it.
How can we get Carole's diary? Ladies, you need to read this book. It really validates your journey of motherhood and what you do. I have a few
copies left. So if anyone is interested, you can give them my email or you can give them your contact.
Okay, you can reach out to me then.
I will make sure. I made a mistake once of giving my phone. Now,
don't do that again.
Yeah, never ever. So
don't do that again. Living the moment. I loved this as well.
Living the moment.
Living the moment. Sometimes we worry so much about
the future.
The future. Oh, he's 2 and I'm already worried about how we'll go to school, whom he will marry. No, let's enjoy 2.
Let's enjoy 2.
Let's enjoy
because 2 passes and you'll never get it back.
I see that in my 16-year-old. I'm like, oh, time really goes. Yeah. Wow, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for honoring our invite. Thank you for writing this. You should make more copies, please.
I will. I want to redo it so that I can also introduce stories of my other son.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so that people can know and then talk a little bit about parenting them as adults.
Oh, yeah. Teenage.
Yeah. But let me tell you, you don't have to go through terrible twos and you don't have to go through teenage drama. It's a lie. You don't. I didn't do terrible.
Actually, I've been told to say it's terrific too. Yeah. Not terrible too.
Yeah. They're just learning to adjust themselves to adjust. And there was nothing terrible about them. I didn't have those tantrums or did you having people do. They try their boundaries, they will do. But you don't have to.
Yeah. In fact, there's a time my son was sick recently. And I just missed that boy who disturbs me. So it's not terrible. It's normal too, right? It's normal to jump everywhere as a small boy, right?
You just teach him. He doesn't know.
Yeah.
So you teach him and you consistently teach him. It's a consistency that people struggle with. And children are different. You will always have that one child who's very strong-willed. And then, sasa ni unajikakamua tu. Unapelekana mpaka mfike.
Someone, actually, there's a parent who also shared with me how parents should manage their expectations on raising children, on what they will become. Sometimes you think my daughter will be. and then they are into this. You're like, people get heartbroken. They do. It's a thing. I didn't know.
It's a thing. It is. You're like, my child is doing finance, and then my child is doing performing arts or poetry. You want to hide, but I think just help your child to be the best version of themselves. That's it.
Wow.
They can only be what God created for them to be. And you are able to recognize that early if you're paying attention.
Oh.
And to nurture that.
Well, even personality. I already know my son's personality.
Yeah. Even gifting. My third born draws. He's very good. I can't draw to save my life. Neither can the dad. So we're like, that is something we need to pay. I'm more musical. He is. The others weren't. My other children are very sporty, they were always the ones winning, coming. In fact, we stopped. You know how you display? They're all in a basket. There are too many to be hung.
Hang a few.
I was like, I need to make like a big medal. Those medals are like this. There are many. For swimming, for running, for soccer, for what? And so one of them right now plays for FC Leopards. Imagine, I'm playing for FC Leopards.
How?
To arrive. So
you're in our team.
I know them. Yeah, I'm in your team. I had.
Wow.
I don't know whether we will. I know there's a time I was thinking of joining God. So I don't know kama tutani.
Wacha kwanza. Baki FC. Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this time, and I have been validated again. I needed to know about the transition. Now from stay home back to, is it hard? I know someone who tried and after a week they went back home.
The kids had grown, so it wasn't hard.
Yeah.
My job is very flexi. I've made it so. I think I've reached a point in my life where I know what I want and I know what is important for me. And like I said earlier, my family is very important. And I know what I'm bringing into the table because that's the other thing. Sometimes for you to be able to... see, what I did the whole time when I was stay at home, I went back to school. I developed other skills. And I was still working at my marketability, for lack of a better word, even as I was raising the kids. So my biggest worry was to come back into the corporate world and not have a space. But I had redefined, I had morphed, I had not gone into ministry. And so I knew who I was. People may not have known it, but I draw strength from the story of David. Even his father didn't think he qualified to be in that. His time was better spent taking care of sheep than coming, because the probability of him being the next king, as far as his family was concerned, was nil. Yeah. But he knew who he was. And so when he was called, he could testify and say, the same God who helped me do this and helped me do. And they're like, Allah, you've been doing those things. They didn't know. So what I was doing in that secret place, in that place between you and God, and in that place of home, when the child is sleeping and you're folding clothes and you're dreaming and you're allowing the Spirit of the Lord to speak to you, God was growing something. And so I knew what I could offer. So all I needed was the opportunity. And when the opportunity presented itself, I stepped in without apology. I no longer had the pressure of trying for somebody else to blow my trumpet because I had been in a space where ni mimi najieka majira. Like I said, you're in a conversation and people are asking everyone else and they're like, oh, but it's okay. Then they ask the next person, because what would you probably know? And then what do you do with that? You tell yourself, you know what I know. Or I'm going to go and find out next time I will have something important to contribute, you know. And so I was no longer waiting to be validated by somebody. The Lord had been validating me. My kids were validating me. I knew who I was and what I had to bring into the table. Now, getting the opportunity to do that was not easy. And it's not going to be easy. My biggest worry was that I thought that I had lost 10 years. But when I went back to the workplace...
What were you doing here?
When I went back to the workplace, guess what? I had lost nothing. I had gained. I had done a lot. I was bringing in more skills, and I knew how to package myself better. So I came like a storm. I was like, Nimerudi.
Back with a bang.
I'm back with a bang.
Wow.
And God has been gracious.
Tell us about that in the new book. The transition, how you came back. But thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
You are doing a show. Please tell us about your show.
So part of what we do, part of the ministries, I started during COVID. I got COVID. And I got COVID together with my friend, and she passed on. And that was the season when a lot of pastors were dying. And so I started asking myself, if I was to die, what do I feel I haven't done? And there were 3 specific things that I knew that the Lord would have had me do that I hadn't accomplished yet. I felt, God, if you can give me more time to accomplish these things, then I would be ready now to come and meet with you. And I'm not going to go into the details of the other 2, but part of it was I felt I had not witnessed. I had gone to the Haggai Institute. It's in Maui, and I had made a promise that I would reach a certain number of people within the 2 years. I was coming to the tail end of those 2 years, and I hadn't done that. And I felt I owed it to God. You assume because you're a pastor, you're witnessing, but I felt I hadn't been intentional. And so I was like, how do I do this? And so I started. It started off as a podcast. I tried to do it as a blog. It wasn't working. I tried it as a podcast. It wasn't. So it's just telling people stories and bringing the reality of death to people and talking about, what has your life been about? So the first season, I called it Thoughts of a Shaken Pastor. And the reason why I called it Thoughts of a Shaken Pastor is because we were coming to a place where we had been shaken as pastors. We didn't know whether we'd ever have a job again, whether church would go back to what it was. My faith was still steadfast. But the things that I held on to had all been, I had never been in a space where church is shut. Church is a place of refuge where people are supposed to be going. What am I supposed to do with my congregation? I can't go to their homes and talk to them. They're dying, they're hurting. So how do I reach them? And so I thought that was just to kind of like Carole's diary, the book. It was the diary of what I was going through at that time. And so I started talking about the lives of people who had died that I knew. Some had lived for Christ, some had lived for other things, and looking at it from the tail and what was the most important thing. So that was the first season. And then I lost a lot of weight. Everyone wanted to know how I'd done that. And I was like, you know what, as I'm telling you the secret, I will also be pumping for you the gospel, the principles that help me, because the principles that help me lose weight were also the same principles that have helped me stay in the faith. So we did that. And then now people wanted to hear stories of faith and hope. And so that's what we do. We just talk about integration of faith. People who have stood, people who've gone through that. The third season was my favorite. People who'd gone through excruciating circumstances and were still standing for Christ. So how had they stood? Because you hear about mtu amekudog, amekuacha. But what about those ones who were dogged and forgave and stayed? How did they stay? And so we talked a lot about those kind of stories, and people are very generous with their experiences and their ability to share. And then we did a whole season about people who've been successful, because as Christians, we either people expect us not to succeed, and if we succeed, we tuachane na Yesu. So what about those people who are in places like Daniel? They're excelling, they're at the top of their game, but still love Jesus. So we shared about those stories, and this time we're talking about people who've had longevity. People like Ruben, people like Matthew Mwalwa, people like Donald Smith of Daystar, telling us their stories. Actually, I'm so excited. That's going to come out in January. We are calling it Wahenga Wateule. People who have lived the faith and have finished this, are finishing this strong. Kina Ada Doyo, Kina Timising, Judy Mbugwa, Peter Dera. So we're just helping people to know that this faith is, God is able to sustain you. It's doable. God can keep you.
Amen.
And I'm so excited about that.
Amen. So we give you more details. Hope to get them. We will write them here so that you also get to know about that platform. And we support you as well as we get inspired. Thank you so much. We have to end. We've been ending for the last 30 minutes. Thank you so much. God bless you. Say it to your boys.
I will.
Oh, Mama Boys.
I will.
There's a t-shirt I saw written Mama Boys, and I'm not trying for a girl.
Well, I should get that one. Thank you so much, Rodah. It's been such an opportunity.
Thank you.
And maybe you're watching me and you're that place of stuckness. You're wondering if it's worth it. Let me just tell you that it is worth it.
Amen.
Jesus, even if nobody else sees, Jesus sees.
Amen.
Jesus sees, and he's happy with you.
Amen. Amen. And thank you for watching. Once again, if you need any more details, you always check my comments or the description of this video to get some of your questions answered. But what have you learned? Let us know in the comment section. And thank you so much for being part of this community. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.